Welcome back to Ground Rules, where we dig beneath the surface of South Africa's agricultural markets and unpack the numbers that matter. I am Conce, and this is Ground Rules. The average potato price declined by 2% last week, settling at R63.20 per 10 kilogram bag. The Class 1 extra large mondial potatoes traded at approximately R70 per 10 kilogram bag, while Class 1 large mondials averaged R78. Class 1 medium mondials declined to R63 for a 10 kilogram bag. Despite these weekly decreases, the average potato price remains 37% higher than it was a year ago, while the market volumes are approximately 7% lower than they were a year ago also. So we are currently moving through a traditionally difficult period for the fresh produce market. It is the week before pay week, Mampara week, when the consumer demand is usually weaker than normal. The combination of slightly higher potato volumes and subdued demand could place some additional pressure on prices this week. However, the market is beginning this week with relatively lower stock. This could limit the extent, therefore, of the decline, and the prices may recover as we move closer to month end and then the consumer demand begins to improve. Tomato prices fell sharply last week, declined by 23% to R13.26 per kilogram. At the same time, the volumes increased by 23% week on week, which was largely in line with expectations. Even after the decrease, the average tomato price remains 42% higher than it was a year ago, while the volumes are still approximately 11% lower. As we have discussed last week, we've got softer demand and the possibility of significantly larger volumes entering the market, which are likely to keep the tomato prices under pressure. With warmer weather, we could see an acceleration of production, and that bringing additional tomatoes to the market sooner than what we expected. Demand may improve next week, which could provide some temporary price support. However, there is some growing talk across the markets that substantial volumes of tomatoes are already in circulation or preparing to enter the system. So the real question is not whether those tomatoes will reach the market. It's a matter of when, right? And once they do, prices could come under significant pressure. Looking into the onions price moved strongly in the opposite direction, increasing by 24% to an average of R102.85 per 10 kilogram bag. Class 1 medium brown onions averaged R123, and Class 1 medium white onions traded at R121. Class 1 medium red onions declined to R207 per 10 kilogram bag, and that was because of a temporary production gap in Limpopo, which is currently helping to keep the onion prices relatively high. However, we are beginning to see more onions entering the market, which is placing pressure on that particular size category. We see medium and larger onions continuing to achieve relatively good prices. Looking further ahead, additional volumes could begin to start to place the broader onion market also under pressure as we move into September and October, particularly as more producers start harvesting. Looking into our carrots, the carrot prices decreased by 10% to R6.08 per kilogram, with volumes increasing by 4%. The demand could improve after the weekend and into next week, with volumes expected to remain relatively stable. Price recovery might be slightly happening over the next 2 weeks. The longer term outlook on carrots, however, remains generally softer. Carrot prices are expected to follow a downward trend over the next 2 months as more volumes become available and enter the market. The average pepper price declined by 13% to R17.33 per kilogram. Green peppers fell by 19% to R10 per kilogram. Yellow peppers declined by 10% to R48, while the red peppers decreased by 5% to reach R38 per kilogram. Our pepper prices could remain relatively elevated through August. Thereafter, warmer weather is expected to support increased production, bring in additional volumes to the market, which could place prices under renewed pressure. Looking at the rest of the vegetable market, cabbage prices declined to R2.89 per kilogram, while sweet potatoes fell to R4.05. Spinach prices increased to R3.86 per kilo, and butternut prices strengthened to R5. We see pumpkin prices declining to R2.43 per kilo, while green beans fell to R22.82. One of the most significant movements came from cucumbers, with prices more than halving to R6.45 per kilogram. Garlic prices increased to an average of R54.50 per kilo. Locally produced garlic traded at approximately R51.84, while imported garlic averaged R56.17 per kilo. Now let's move across to the fruit market. Banana prices increased by 5% to R8.73 per kilogram last week. That works out to approximately R157 for an 18 kilogram box. Demand is expected to remain relatively subdued this week, which could place some pressure on prices. However, both demand and the prices could start to experience an improvement as of next week as the consumers start to receive their month-end salaries. Moving over to apples, we have seen an increase to R9.25 per kilogram, and pear prices have also strengthened to R9.46 per kilogram. Apples may now be entering the early stages of an upward price trend. Pear prices, however, may remain relatively stable for the next few weeks, with more meaningful upward movement potentially beginning from September onwards. Moving over to citrus, we have seen orange prices declining by 8% last week to reach R2.74 per kilogram. Prices are now 41% lower than they were a year ago, while the volumes are approximately 43% higher. Exceptionally high citrus volumes continue to place severe pressure on the market. We've got quality concerns and the limited export activity that continue to add to these challenges. Currently, citrus volumes are similar to the levels that we've experienced during the year 2022 and 2023. If export volumes somehow increase, we could see domestic prices beginning to improve from September. However, should the exports remain limited, as they did in year 2022, we could see orange prices remaining under pressure for an extended period. This is one of the most important areas of the fresh produce market to watch over for the coming weeks. Moving over to lemons, lemon prices increased to R4.56 per kilogram, and grapefruit prices declined to R3.81. Avocados, the prices increased by 2% last week to reach R17.43 per kilogram on average. Prices are expected to remain close to these levels over the next month, with the possibility of moving closer to R20 per kilogram by September. Looking at the main varieties, we have seen that the Forte avocados averaging around R24 per kilogram, the Haas avocados trading around R18 per kilo, and the Pinkerton avocados averaging R15 per kilogram. Other foods, looking into table grapes, prices fell sharply by 35% to reach R49.87 per kilogram. Our pineapples increased to R10.47 per kilogram, while blueberry prices declined by 8% last week to reach R86 per kilogram. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's Ground Rules Fresh Produce Market overview. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and remember that the best farming decisions always start with solid ground rules.